want me to start, or I thought you were going to start?
Are we recording?
Let me tell you guys a story. This is the itch. Let me tell you a story. I was in a coffee shop. Walked to the front, ordered, same thing I ordered at Starbucks. Ordered a
Black coffee.
iced Americano. Black.
Close enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit lighter, for my complexion. So, ordered my order, right? Waited patiently for them to drop it off and give it to me. And I bumped into a gentleman. It's like, sir, what is your name? He goes, Roger Ebert. He goes,
I don't think this happened.
video games aren't art.
Did this happen recently?
Shh.
Okay.
He goes, video games aren't art. Sir, please, your voice. He looks at me and he goes, you're one of those goddamn game developers, aren't you? I was like,
Well,
I work on video games. And he's like, motherfucker.
Why is he talking?
And he took his caramel frappuccino, riddled with sugar, and walked away. I dropped my coffee, and tears began to flow down my cheek. I cried out, why? Why do games get such a bad rap? Why aren't they art? But we're here to answer that question. Because right now, we're discussing video games as art.
Okay.
Roger Ebert, this is for you, bitch.
Oh, he passed away.
He's dead.
Oh, wait,
man.
Roper. Wait, no, Roper did. Roger Ebert's still alive.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, Roper's dead.
I'm pretty sure Roger Ebert's dead.
You're mixing them up.
Roger Ebert died April 4th,
That's what I was thinking.
2013.
Roper. Wait, no, he said video games can be art, though. He was a skeleton.
His skeleton bumped into you.
His ghoulish figure threw me off, and I was like, he must be anorexic.
Well, okay. Hyperbole in extremism as it is, are video games art? What makes video games art? We're going to answer all those questions today, aren't we?
Yeah. Roll title card. This is the itch. And we're here.
For a 2-minute intro.
Welcome back, folks. How are ya? I'm JD.
I'm Rosie.
I'm Spencer.
I'm Eric.
And I'm the kid.
And I'm Spencer. And this is the itch.
I'm the father.
It's your boy.
Now,
It's your boy.
so any media has kind of become art in and of itself, right? Like music, books, movies. Is there anything else besides that? Besides video games, obviously?
Like visually, so like paintings.
Paintings. Right. Paintings. Sculptures. And video games now. Video games are the new media. We're the new form of entertainment.
We're the new
people
kid
have.
on the block.
New kid on the block.
Yeah, man.
Potentially the last.
People like pushing us around.
Not sure what else could. I guess
I don't like to be pushed.
maybe they'll deal with sensory later.
Like 50 or 60 years ago, people were asking the same question. I don't think there's anything else besides film.
That's true.
So
maybe I'm being the snotty guy or something. But
Here's a tissue.
so I guess we can start by defining everything else. How are books art?
So books are art. Yeah. Well, I don't read many books, but books are an art form because you read it, you envision yourself in the story itself, and if it can actually take you on a journey, I would say that is what makes books so great at what they do.
So like elicit some kind of emotional response
Right.
by putting words in your head.
Right.
Okay.
worth it.
It's simple as that.
Yeah.
It tells a fantastic
not words
story.
in your head, but you
Get
can
out of my head.
you can envision it with your imagination,
Sure.
Yeah.
and that's
Alright.
what makes those such a great art form.
What about paintings?
Well, I study a lot of like visual art, like dissecting visual art and stuff, thanks to my school. And a lot of what they use to define art is or visual painting like techniques and stuff. I believe it's 6. So there's light and dark, right, which is a ratio. There's there's texture, so like the implied texture, how does it feel? There's color, there's shape, and there's line. So color is self-explanatory. Shape, anything enclosed. Line, the lines. And all this stuff presents a sort of general direction, and kind of examining it, you kind of put forth a sort of like what's called funding into it, where you invest in like, okay, I'm going to watch this, and you invest in it. If you walk away with like a good sort of feeling on it, you view that art as, because it's subjective, but you view that art as, either good or bad to you.
You place a value on it.
Place a value on it. So yeah, but it's those things, those 5 things, and then you kind of develop a relationship from there.
All right.
So on paintings and stuff, those are the line shapes and all that kind of stuff, the colors. That is all what makes it art.
Yeah, those are the factors that people will like dissect. I mean, there's other stuff too. There's like balance and proportion and stuff like that.
So then we get into music then, as being another art form that we're talking about now, and that again elicits a response. It creates emotions within you, based on the instruments, the tone, the
harmony, the melody.
melody, the vocals, what the vocals are saying.
Exactly.
That is all its form of art because it's a person's creation of their feelings and thoughts that then elicits a response from the listener. I almost said viewer.
This ain't MTV. This ain't TRL.
VH1.
That is so old. God, TRL'd me.
Carson Daly.
I got Carson Daly'd.
So then past music now,
Movies.
we have movies.
Pulp Fiction.
So
That's a movie.
Yep. That is, I'm glad that you had to give us an example for us to understand. But movies are an interesting concept because it's actually the collaboration of everything that we just listed previously. Music, the paintings, as well as books. You're getting the story from the books. You're getting the visual from the paintings. You're getting the sound and music from music. Now, what's after movies?
That's where it ends, I think.
The next frontier. Video game.
I don't think there is anything after that.
Well, Roger Ebert, God rest your soul.
Yeah.
You Skeletor-looking mother freaker.
That is very harsh. For that poor guy.
What? Did you have a beef with him?
Well, he did say this about video games not being art.
Well, I mean, besides that.
So what about video games makes them art? What does a video game offer you more than a movie doesn't? Being that movie pulls from 3 different arts into one.
Can I be the first on this one?
Sure.
And just a
No,
small
so
thing.
here's the go ahead.
No, well, here's the thing about it is that games always felt like interactive movies to me, in which I'm actually in it. I actually have control over what the protagonist does. So that's how I always figured that video games were art or in just how you can actually be in the story itself. Especially with creative characters and like RPGs, you create that story with your decisions, your choices, just from the beginning to the end.
I mean, you exactly on that point. I agree. You take an open world game such as Grand Theft Auto, or if you want to look at Minecraft, with how big of a community it has, they took music, sound, graphics, all of that into a game, and then they put the players into this world to create and have fun the way they designed the game. But how many games were created inside of this game now? Because the user interacted with the product and created on top of that.
A lot.
A lot.
Are we looking at a number? A lot.
Yeah.
You can make cell phone calls from Minecraft. It's nuts.
Yeah.
I think in order to really understand how video games are, you have to look at other mediums and understand why those are, and understand techniques and a lot of like the work that people like went into when they're inventing their own stuff. I actually talked to I have a teacher or instructor who's really like big into art and everything like that, and I did mention to him video games as art, and he's probably the first guy that didn't laugh in my face, which is great. It's always nice. I don't like being spit on. And he he asked me a really interesting question that I said so many times. Who's familiar with Citizen Kane? Orson Welles' Citizen Kane.
Yeah,
I know.
Have you guys seen it?
No.
Yes.
I know the
Yeah,
plot
yeah.
twist at the end.
Okay. Well, don't spoil it for people because
Yeah.
it's a really good experience. It doesn't matter if it came out in I believe the 40s, 1941. Doesn't matter. Don't. but you got that smile. You got that glint in your eye.
Rosebud.
Regardless, he goes, "What would?" Because Citizen Kane is on so many greatest films of all time for what it did, techniques and everything like that. He goes, "What would you define as the Citizen Kane of gaming?" And I actually don't have an answer for him. Because a lot of people might jump and go, oh, Mario. But we're talking about something that capitalized on every element. And Mario didn't capitalize on the story. Granted, you can say story doesn't matter, which is sort of true. But if we're talking truly taking that art form, to the limits, some of the games that I felt the most attached to artistically have been games with a really good story or one that actually makes you feel something.
I would argue Mario, and we'll get into that later.
Okay. But ultimately, when Orson Welles was making the film, he was like, all right, we're going to try this, we're going to try that. There's a lot of tactics that people didn't hear of yet. So if we're not going like we're one for one, looking at if a video game did that, we're just looking at, okay, what games kind of took advantage of it. There's a few of them, right? Like, yeah, you could say Mario. You could say Sonic for blast core processing. You could say Metal Gear for the fact of limiting how many players are actually, or how many people are on the screen, because it was a limitation of the console. So like, hey, it's a syncing game instead. You can look at all those elements and go, hey, that's an artistic aspect. But what is like truly art is something that it's a hard thing to kind of argue because it's subjective ultimately. Some guys are gonna like it, some guys aren't gonna like it.
Right.
Like just like me and him right now. I said no to Mario, he's gonna say yes.
Right.
I think
And there's the point being is that there's no formula that they can follow and say, all right, if we have an amazing story, we have, we'll say a D ranking gameplay and the graphics on the game, we make it Minecraft. And if we make the sound design, if we make it 8-bit,
Yeah.
that makes the perfect game, the perfect experience for everyone. That is the perfect art. There is no formula for that.
Well, and to take
because
that,
it's all interpretive.
to take that even a step further, there is no formula for art. 3x plus 4y does not equal art.
It's beautiful.
That's not.
It's beautiful.
Oh my god!
my
I
God.
just came up with it like right now. It's just amazing.
You are a genius.
You are
but
the
yeah,
genius.
there's no art cannot be just defined by, like you said, D story, B gameplay, A graphics equals this is an art game, whereas people that didn't do that is not art. That's not how it works. Like, I think the common thread through all the different forms that we mentioned, music, books, movies, paintings, is that it has to elicit some kind of response, like some kind of
Right.
emotional feeling.
You have to feel something from these games.
Right. I mean, and so whereas movies have a story to tell and all that stuff, maybe music doesn't have a story to tell. But that doesn't mean it's not art. So there's not pieces that you have to make it art. It's just as long as you can get somebody to feel something when they experience your product, that's art to me.
Well, that's interesting because if you look at the sort of general response for games, what people look at as far as like state of mind is usually excitement, fulfillment, or happiness or joy or something like that.
Right.
Hey, I got a new gun.
Yay.
Happiness, accomplishment, whatever. I leveled up, accomplishment.
I beat a boss.
I beat a boss, joy. Especially Dark Souls, but joy, right? In those situations, deterring from that is when we actually pay attention. When we're sad in a game, Shadow Colossus, and you go, wow, that really hit me. It's taking us out of the norm, how we're used to feeling like, oh yeah, I beat the boss on Shadow Colossus, and then you get the ending and you go, oh god, and then you realize how good the game is, which is really ironic.
Yeah, and to say that in another way, when you're gaming isn't just, or art for gaming isn't just when you have self-accomplishment, when you completed something, but when you see a character on the screen and you go, no, don't do that, or don't go that way, don't climb up the stairs, like he's up there, don't go up, run out the front door. When you're starting to, that's when story starts to really pull in there. Is when you're...
It's like a cheat code, yeah. Story will get you quicker than a gameplay would.
The intro to Last of Us.
Yeah.
Like, and we
Took
kind
my
of
soul.
talked about this. Like, I watched the intro to it and I was like, God, I really don't like this gameplay. Like, I don't like the third person over the shoulder. I don't like how clunky I feel when I'm running. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel smooth to me. But that story drove home like, this is an experience I can't miss. I don't care if I struggle through the gameplay. I am gonna play this game. And I went through the entire game, and it was probably one of the greatest experiences I've had playing a game. and I didn't care for the gameplay at all. But that didn't matter in the whole
Grand scheme of things.
grand scheme of things. Thank you.
You had something?
No, I was just saying, because we were talking about The Last of Us and just the intro of it, in which, what evoked so much emotion feeling was like literally the cinematic cutscene in which, I don't want to spoil
Bad
it.
things happen.
Bad things happen in the beginning. And I was just like, oh my God. Like,
But seeing the funny thing is that tons of games have bad things happen in the beginning. Princess Peach gets stolen or kidnapped, taken.
She gets took.
She gets
I mean,
taken
Resident Evil.
by the king.
You're being chased by zombie dogs. Your team is getting slaughtered. I mean, granted, there was a feeling of you were connected. It was a cathartic experience, but at the same time, you can see how something like The Last of Us might be stronger if you consider having a sibling or having a daughter
or
a
just
son.
being an everyday guy.
Being an everyday guy that actually has a heart. You might feel for the character in the role.
And the differences between Mario and The Last of Us is like Mario's kind of conveyed in a very cartoon manner, which, it's Bowser. It's literally a dinosaur creature that stole the princess. Like, I can't really...
Yeah, I've seen the movies.
Yeah. I can't really, empathize with that. I can't I've been in that situation.
Yeah, there's no so there's no relation.
But having...
But as far as video games go, as being art, it's a collaboration of all the different things that we mentioned in the beginning of this video. It doesn't have to be 100% successful in every avenue that we talked about, sound, graphic, and story.
Yeah.
But all of those are being added into video games, and we're adding a fourth dimension to this art style. What makes it different than a movie is that it's the player interaction. It's the consumer is now interacting and changing the product, or what do you call that? Driving the storyline. And if in The Last of Us, I'll use this as an example for the last time for this. If you do not explore the game and find all the tapes and the papers that give you more information about the story, there are things about the story you won't understand. That some decisions that are made, I didn't understand the gravity of them. I'm talking specifically near the end of that game.
Right.
If you did not pick up all the tapes and listen to them when you were in that last area, you did not fully understand the gravity of what your guy was doing.
Yeah.
And if you find that extra information, you are more motivated for the game to end that way.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
And that's the player interaction part of it. Is if story isn't important to you, then you don't have to make it to. You don't have to drive it home for it to make that experience amazing.
Right.
The Destiny, another one that uses the find these items so that you can explore more of the story. That does it horrendously. Like, it pushes you so hard. Like, if you want any story in the game,
Yeah.
like 90% of your story is on an app or a website that you get after you've achieved something in the game. But again, it's not required for it to be experienced and elicit a response from the consumer.
It's just not always the response the developer wanted.
So then I think it begs the question of going to the lowest, and bear with me when I use this term, the lowest common denominator on this. Would you consider Tetris art? And when I say it, I don't mean it's a bad game. I mean it's music, movie aspect,
Graphics.
quality.
Can we look
all
at
that
it
stuff.
as a product of its time then?
No, don't even look at it that.
No,
Look
because
at
they
it
still
right
make
now.
it nowadays.
Just look at it as Tetris.
It is a game.
Is it art?
Well,
NES Tetris.
in order to do that for me, there's this one interesting story about American and European art. Back in the 20s, it was called the Armory Show, and badass name. And
That's tight.
pretty much what they had was this was the unveiling of Cubism. So anyone who's familiar with Picasso, he's strictly like the Cubist movement, like forerunner. But he wasn't. I believe he unveiled a painting, but it wasn't his painting. It was, I believe his name was Debussy or Duchamp. New Staircase. Have you guys heard of that painting? It was revolutionary in that it was a cubist painting, but it was a naked woman. But your mind had to piece together where everything was. And it was shown in a sort of like motion. It imitated motion by showing there was like 6 or 7 girls. It's the same girl. And you couldn't see anything nude, really. But it was revolutionary in which that it was like, how am I supposed to feel about this? Because it's a nude girl. This is conservative America in the 1920s going, that's a nude chick. You know? And 1920s, 1910, one of those. 1913. But Americans hated it. They're like, this is terrible. This is awful. Fast forward a couple years, and then suddenly it is viewed as this like amazing work of art that pushed Cubism to America and got us to get out of this whole like romantic style period of making art. Now, if we apply that to Tetris, and if you look at it, Tetris back then, and I have to just to bring up the point. Tetris back then, when it first came out, didn't really elicit too much of an emotion because people didn't know how to feel about it. They're just like, all right, cool, joy, sure, right? I got a high score, I'm happy. But now, if we break it down, we can understand the genius behind it and what was so important about it, and probably get another emotion from it. So much like how art was changed by science, relativity affects how you view Tetris. And I would say it is art, because now I don't look at it just from, I got a high score. I look at it from, holy crap, someone built this so simplistic and wrapped people's minds up in a bunch of blocks falling. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say.
I agree. I think again, going back to the fact that it doesn't have to have a story, it elicited an emotion from me. It gave me excitement and joy and fiero. I'm not going to use that word right now. It elicited a lot of. I had a lot of investment in the game. Even when I play it nowadays, I am into it. It's grasped me. I am entranced by what's going on the screen. I'm not looking away. I'm not texting while I play. I'm not. I don't know. I'm playing the game. And I'm listening to the music. I'm singing along, do 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 do, and it is art to me. I can't really explain it any more than that.
It's culturally relative.
And it's funny, talking about games with like maybe missing elements. Like I played the Soul series without actually caring, or not caring, but I actually not knowing the story.
Yeah.
And I really consider that art, like some of the most beautiful art, because it looks amazing. I feel a sense of dread and fear as I play it, going through some of the darker areas and scary areas in the game. Mm-hmm. And
spiders.
Tell me spiders. And a lot of people would see that as art, but
You gotta play that. Sorry. Keep going.
no.
You have to
That's
see
all.
it as art.
You got to play it.
Yeah.
No. Well, no, I was talking to him about Divinity.
But yeah, I mean, I lost my train of thought already.
You said you got to play it.
Yeah, you have to play it because it's something that you don't necessarily need to know the story, but it elicits so many emotions and feelings from you. And
Mostly rage.
Well, that's the interesting thing, is why there's such a big movement behind people that like watching people dissect the story, is because it's literally icing on the cake. Maybe you played the game, you had a great time, but you're like, why did I kill him? And then someone goes, all right, hey, take a look back. Let's dive into the story. And then it's literally like having two separate meals, because you're having your story at one time and you're having your gameplay at another.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're able to piece things together. It's like watching a movie like Memento for the second time, because then you're going, oh, this is why this happened. Or, you know, even Fight Club. Oh, man, they weren't there, you know, like, you know, you feel like silly, but at the same time, you feel a sense of like, sort of
didn't catch that.
accomplishment. Yeah, I didn't catch that, but now everything's just piecing together.
It's like a bonus gift, icing on the cake, like you said.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's I can absolutely see how stuff like that is taken off. But ultimately, like the most, to me, what I think like kind of separates it ultimately is you can't watch games and have the same feeling. At the end of the day, if you look at someone who watches a Let's Play of The Last, we talk about it so much, The Last of Us. If you look at someone who watches that, they don't have the same experience ultimately because they didn't have the same struggle that you did. Like, hey, I remember that level like two levels ago where I had no ammo and I literally had to beat a guy to death to get some ammo. Or, man, when I was Ellie and me and David ran out of ammo and freaking guys were coming left and right, I didn't know what to do, like stuff like that. And then when you get the culmination, when you've read all the notes, you have the culmination of the entire story, everything comes together and you realize, holy crap, I am finally done. Then the rush of emotion, the wave or whatever finally hits you, and it hits you that much stronger because you experienced it. You were there.
Right.
It's not something you can watch someone else do and feel the same way. That's why I understand Let's Plays, but you're cheating yourself because you're not getting the same experience in the end.
Yeah.
Well, and so take that lowest common denominator of Tetris, right?
Okay.
So Tetris, we all kind of agreed is art
Yeah.
at the end of the day? Okay. So notice that it's lacking a lot of things. It's
Yes.
lacking a cinema style, obviously.
I don't know about you.
It's lacking...
You get a story out of Tetris?
It's lacking a story.
I thought there was.
There's plenty
All
of
the
stuff.
tetrahedrons.
There's probably a-
attacked Earth.
There's probably a direction or a narrative, but there isn't a story.
Post production.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
We're
added
stopping
on.
Goombas again. You're
Yeah.
like, really?
It's
Okay.
like it's the Minecraft story. Like they're like, oh well,
Hero
Minecraft.
Brian.
Here's a story.
Yeah.
So then project that idea that you don't need all these parts onto video games as a whole. And that's why I think Super Mario would be our, what do you call it? Citizen Kane.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you bring it back. Okay.
Yeah.
So because, it doesn't have a full-fledged, it has a story technically. It doesn't have a full-fledged story. It's, pretty much plot to get the person to start jumping on it. But it's a game that set the trend for you can make a game look good with the art that you have, so it's timeless in that instance. Like nobody looks at, you look at Mario NES and say this looks dated,
Yeah.
but I know plenty of people that still love the art. Retro art is huge because of that game.
It's a movement.
Like people love looking at those bricks, and they love looking at Mario looking like that. It's because they picked the right palette. They made something appealing to the eye, which is an art thing. They made music that people still hum today. Music people still like. They made and you can say the story isn't there, but everybody knows the story of Mario going after Peach and fighting Bowser. Everyone knows these characters. And the gameplay, which is I think the number one part that separates games from everything else, started what we do today. Running, jumping, getting that like perfect timing on everything, jumping on platforms, taking risks, all that stuff. So I think Mario is our Citizen Kane. Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
I think it's obviously not the first video game that was ever created.
No.
But I can agree with Spencer on this that it was the first successful game that that opened the eyes of the masses to the gaming world and basically stating there is more to this than just wasting my time. Like there's an achievement, there's a trackable achievement. I'm changing, so like in Tetris or Pac-Man or something like that, it gets faster. Tetris gets faster when something's going on, or when you're doing well.
Or you can make it faster, right? You just hit down, and you're dropping blocks.
Oh yeah. So it's a self-imposed challenge.
It's like high risk, high reward.
Yeah. So you can get back to where you were. And then, but my point being is that games in the past, they were very stagnant in the visual aspect.
Right.
It was asteroids. Your guy stood in the middle and everything came at you. And the only thing that changed is the amount of things that came at you.
Yeah.
Pac-Man, the speed of the ghosts and the maps would change a little bit.
Right.
But they wouldn't actually, you weren't getting a full visual change. Mario was one of the very first ones that actually gave you an entire screen change where you saw a complete new color palette and a new world as you progressed.
Okay.
Giving you that sense of what's next. What am I going to see next? So that visual
More
appealing,
colors.
that feeling of oh my God, I'm in the water now.
Yeah.
I'm swimming. Mario is swimming. I've now changed the controls of my character.
Okay.
I think that is another reason why the innovation of the Mario franchise in the very beginning. Can't say they're innovative now, but they're from
That's a topic for another time.
yeah. But their innovation is another thing that I think is why they can be considered the Citizen Kane.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I hear you and Spencer's point on it, and I get where you're coming from. I wouldn't personally, just because I kind of think we're looking in the wrong direction, and I think I don't know who says it. The best is yet to come. You know.
Sure. Well, I mean, but you don't have to classify Citizen Kane as the best movie.
No, I don't. Just for what it did, it's something that shouldn't be taken lightly, and that's why I say, yeah, Mario, sure, but I would call Mario, in my opinion, more of Gone with the Wind in Technicolor.
Oh.
With finally having, Technicolor, technically color, wasn't exactly color, but at the same time, we're talking about hand coloring frames, so there's a lot of work into that, and then obviously the filters and etc. But I say the best is yet to come because I want to look at gaming as still not reaching that peak yet, because I feel like if you look at that, you're peaking a game. You're peaking a medium rather. If we look at Orson Welles and we go, oh, Citizen Kane was one of the best, we're technically peaking what we view as that superior product.
So you don't agree with the concept that that anything should have a Citizen Kane. You don't believe that movies should have that.
I like the concept behind it because I don't say that.
I wouldn't say that saying that a game is Citizen Kane means games can't get any better.
It's just.
I would just say that it's a landmark game that we can look back and say, okay, this influenced things going forward. This was a big landmark.
No, I hear you on that, but I mean in the sense of like when I refer to like peaking, I mean like it's like people always go back and be like, oh, it wasn't as good as Citizen Kane, or it didn't have this technology that Citizen Kane, was.
But I don't think anyone's gonna do that with Mario,
But people do that.
Really?
People will be like, oh, hey, a superior product.
Some people that aren't into games today, they're like, I can play Mario, but I can't play like whatever's out.
Yeah,
Right.
Mario did it better back then, and that's when we get into like nostalgia vision and all this other stuff, and it's so many different.
That's like when
factors.
people talk about another game that's considered art, Ocarina of Time.
Is it Oka or Oka?
I think that's another Citizen Kane.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
no.
It
No?
I imagine, so as far as this goes, I've been imagining it in my mind. Did you guys ever watch Heroes?
Yes.
Yeah, I watched a little bit.
Do you remember when Hiro Nakamura was in the future and he had that timeline and he had all those strings all over the place, all coming back and pinpointing to where this was the moment that we had to change or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
As we're talking about all these games and we're coming up with all these ideas of what games were actually the Citizen Kane, I can just imagine a room of just full of string going all over the place, just from wall to wall, connecting dots here and there and there. And because I believe that all of them, because video gaming as art is a collection and collaboration of so many different kinds of art, that yes, they all have their own points in time. But based off of Mario being created, we now have the platformer genre was now created, as this is a genre and this is an art style, and every platformer there after that is now influenced by this.
Well, it's not necessarily fair to say that because we don't know what could have been if Mario
Their
never
influence.
came.
Right. But from the whole timeline thing, the whole strings going around, we can say because this did happen.
Like I can't imagine. I wasn't really conscious at the time. Mario came out, 85? Originally?
It's 85, 83.
Was it later? Whatever. Whenever it came out, I wasn't born. So I can't say, but I can imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe a Big Daddy K knows the answer to this, but games that came out years after Mario came out were saying, it's not quite as good as Mario, or it plays a lot like Mario. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, this is very Mario-esque, so you'll like it. Like, I can imagine that they influenced it at that point to where Mario was the big flagship for a long time, and still kind of is in a lot of ways. So.
Yeah.
I'll still go back and play Mario.
Look. So 81 was Jumpman. 85, you're right.
85.
Well, that's Super Mario, yeah. Kill him.
Not bad, man. Okay, roll that down.
But yeah, so you can kind of look back and see that people are already sort of going like, oh, hey, it's not as good as Mario, or whatever the case is. So I like to maintain a positive outlook in that we still have something great on the way.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
why
of
I look
course.
at me and you can for days just talk about Metal Gear Solid 3
Yeah.
and be like, wasn't this great, or look how this handled this.
I would argue though. I would argue that Metal Gear Solid 1 more so.
For innovation's sake, yeah.
But I would say Metal Gear Solid 3 is the better game.
Like more polished.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if games have taken as much from Metal Gear Solid 3 as they have Metal Gear Solid 1 per se in the big picture.
And ultimately, it
Which
all
is a shame, but
it
it's
depends on what you value. So you value clearly innovation more. I value the sort of like the emotional connection, or well, maybe you do that too, but more so in the grand scheme of things, you look at innovation more, and that's fine, and that's art ultimately. Is being able to take a medium and have these kinds of discussions and go, hey, what was most important about this? And sometimes the absence of something like story lends itself to different movements. If anyone's ever heard of the minimalist movement, that is literally taking objectification into the picture, whereas a lot of art at the time was like, oh, it exists on a different plane. It has to be that imaginary kind of art. It has to be so imaginary that you can't relate it to a real structure. And then you see why that didn't stick, because people do like that sense of objectification or objecthood and being able to bring it back to something that's real.
Relatable.
Yeah. So even something like a minimalist movement where it's like, we're not going to focus too much on color. Or, the design's something you've already seen. Still is prominent, just like in video games. Hey, there's not going to be too much story in this one, or the gameplay is going to be really simple. Stuff that ultimately is objective that you can look subjectively and kind of like break down and decipher, if you will. So I think that's kind of the true nature of art, and if you can do that in games, how are they not defined as such?
And that's the show.
Cool.
Thanks for watching. You want to tune us out, Eric? Check us out. Spreadshirt. Scratch that
Check us
fashion.
out on shop.spreadshirt.com/The Itch Network, where you can purchase awesome hats, clothes, anything that you want to put our logo on that is on their shop. You can do it.
You can put your logo on.
Sizes and everything.
Do it.
Mouse pads, coffee cups, and you can also then check out our apps on the store of Windows 10 devices, and Android. You can check out that fantastic thing developed by BDK.
What?
You can also check out our website at theitchnetwork.com, where we can see our friends also that Does This Game Suck?
And you could just check us out at Twitch, twitch.tv/thisisttheitch.
This is the
Do you have any ideas for another topic you want to hear about? You want to hear us discuss? Throw it in the comments below. Also, what game do you think was a
piece of art.
Masterpiece.
masterpiece?
Your Citizen Kane. What is your Citizen
What's
Kane?
the Citizen Kane of gaming?
There we go.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.